and welcome to the Overview and Scrutiny Committee of Tuesday, the 26th of July. For the webcast purposes, I'm Councillor Kane and I'm the chairman of the committee. To my right is my vice chairman, and it is David Wixley, Councillor Wixley. To my further right, the Democratic Services. To my left is Andrew Small. I'm very, very pleased to say that we managed, because it is quite an important agenda today, and I understand that we cannot have all officers present, but we have quite a few officers here to help us through Zoom, officers present in the chamber, and thank you very much for all of you that are here to help us out. My thank yous to James Warwick, Maddie Thompson, Jennifer Gould, Paula McGuinness, Sue Lewis, and of course to Mary Vaughan and Teresa Lawson, who are attending. And of course, as well, Nigel Richardson, he also confirmed. So we will start straight away with the webcast introduction. So if I ask Gary to do the introduction for us.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to remind everyone present that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated subsequent viewing, with copies of the recording being made available for those that request it. By being present at this meeting, it is likely that the recording cameras will capture your image, and this will result in your image becoming part of the broadcast. You should be aware that this may infringe your human and data protection rights, and if you have any concerns, then please speak to the webcasting officers. Please could also remind members and officers to activate their microphones before speaking. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item 2, apologies for absence.
Chairman, I've received apologies from Councillors Baldwin, Bassett, Hadley and Janet Whitehouse, and apologies for lateness from Councillor Bannett.
Thank you. Any item 3 substitute members?
I've got Councillor Amos, who is substituting for Councillor Janet Whitehouse.
Thank you. Item 4, declarations of interest. No, none. Thank you very much. Item 5, minutes. Members' pages 7 to 16. They are the minutes of the previous meeting. There are a couple of alterations that I would like to point out, and perhaps anyone else, if would like to point. It is on page 9, and it is paragraph 4. It will be the whole issue about the resident who actually had to phone several times to speak to a staff member was raised by Councillor Wixley. So I would like his name to be there.
Do you want to clarify?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a point of clarification. I think that the issue wasn't that the resident couldn't get through. It was the fact that I think the reference to several times, actually 7 times that she spoke to somebody and couldn't get the issue resolved. So eventually it came back to me. In fact, I think the resident contacted Councillor Murray first, who passed it on to me. I think the main issue about this is that I can sort of understand that it might have been a bit difficult for the person taking the phone call to fully understand what was being requested, because it would have required some local knowledge. But I do feel that if somebody answers the phone and they're having problems with it, they should perhaps have a supervisor to go to ask for some help. And if it had come to it, perhaps if they'd got in touch with the ward councillor, which I'm one of them in this case, I may have been to help there and then. But it turned into be a very long-winded process for something which was actually quite simple to deal with. So basically, if the minutes could be amended to reflect that the resident phoned 7 times without success, I think that's the main point, and perhaps the issue of some assistance to people who answer the phones, where they can go to get help, could be included in that. Thank you.
Okay, I have no problem. It's actually amending to reflect that. Anyone else would like to have any comments or any alterations or any mistakes? Okay, in that case, can we confirm the minutes then with this amendment, please? Yes, thank you. Item 6. Now, item 6, it is a new item which should appear in the ONS and all the select committees. And what it is matter arising and outstanding actions. Because a lot of times we have actions and we want to make sure that these actions have been completed. So that is a new one that you will see appearing in all your agendas. Okay, item 7, public questions and requests to address the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. And Vivian?
None, Chairman.
Thank you. Item 8, executive decisions call-in.
None, Chairman.
Thank you very much. So, straight to corporate plan, key action plan, year 5, 22-23, quarter 1, corporate performance reporting, pages 17 to 36. Okay, so we need to actually look at the review all the quarter performance and agree that it is anything that we would like to discuss further. So shall we take it page by page? Councillor Heather.
Thank you, Chair. I recall at one of our meetings previously about the council speak and things and actually using plain English. Can we have a glossary attached to these? Because we're using abbreviations, things that I have absolutely no knowledge. BAU, PINs,
Yes.
UAT. I've got absolutely no idea what it's referring to.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, then in that case, we would ask Mary Vaughan to actually address this. Take us through the report and address this as well.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yes, so that was one of the things I was actually going to highlight. So I'm aware there were some abbreviations, so we're going to do some work around that to make sure that we are speaking in plain English, and where necessary we'll put in a key for that. The other thing I just wanted to highlight is what we've got in here is the priority projects. So, and it shows obviously the status this quarter compared to last quarter. We're also doing some work individually with each of the projects to review those and work more closely with the project teams to help with the reporting mechanism around that as well. So that should improve the quality of the descriptions and the information that goes with it. The other thing I wanted to highlight across the whole was, and we've talked about this before, is about closure reports. So there's a piece of work going on to look at how we actually store all of those in a central place so that you can have access to all of those rather than what we had been doing, which was sending them out individually on demand. So the piece of work around the closure report is being covered off. So would you like me to, shall I just review the first page, page 20?
Yes, although I have to say that we have improved quite a lot on the description, because then it is a much better summary than with more details than we used to. So thank you for that, and perhaps we can put it as an action into our minutes about the glossary. Yes, thank you. Please do.
Okay, so the first page 20, there's a couple of projects on there, straight into an acronym. M3PP, so this is our Environmental Health Licensing Regulatory Services System. So it's a very big system that's used, it's kind of one of the big four that the council use. It's end of life, and there's a project in flight looking at that. It's at the very beginning, the project status is currently green, but that's why that's on the top 10. The next one, the Community and Cultural Trust project, that is has just reached conclusion. So as I mentioned earlier, there's a closure report that's been put together for that, and we will we will share that with the other closure reports when we have that.
Okay. Is there any comments on page 1? Sorry, page 20, I meant. Councillor Lee.
All I can say is, why is the writing so tiny?
Sorry. Well,
Sorry,
if we
it's a
want
bit
a
on the
little bit
small-
more detail, I must admit. Anyone else? Okay. Can we continue, please?
Chairman.
Sorry.
I think Councillor Heather asked what is BAU. It stands for business as usual.
Okay. Mary Vaughan?
Thank you. So, so the next page 21, waste management contract, telephony solution and back office system digital planning. So the waste contract, that's currently green as it was last quarter. Telephony project, that's kind of in early stages as well. So that's a bit like the environmental health project, right at the beginning discovery stage for that, that's also green. And then the 131, the digital planning project, that's actually just reached conclusion. So that was implemented in the last quarter. So that project is going into formal closure with the report for it.
Members, any comments on that? No? Okay.
I will share one thing, Chair, that I found quite amusing. I read this the day that Boris was just about to leave, and when I heard Callum Baker as the PM, I thought, oh, I don't know who he is, but that's obviously project manager, isn't it? Yeah. He'd probably do a better job.
Please continue.
Okay, yes, you're right, PM's project manager. So the next page 22, so this one's around COVID measures. So there's a series of projects within this. Some of those individual projects have closed, but others are still in flight. Status on this is still currently green.
Members? Okay. Page 22.
23. So the next couple, so the housing asset management system and the people strategy programme. So the housing management asset system was a very big project for us. It's all encompassing. It's obviously housing, very big area of the council and the work that's done. That project is also on track and green, and they're working through all of the kind of workshops and the kind of data preparation around that. And likewise, the people strategy is also green and is looking at further programmes around actually attracting and onboarding and retaining staff. So there's been a series of individual projects within that overall programme that have been completing.
Just to remind everyone that any closed reports will be found at some point in the website and will be available to all. Okay, so we don't need to ask for reports. Thank you.
Thank you. Next one, local plan. So the updates in here, I think there's been a more recent verbal update as well from Nigel. That's currently at status amber.
Members, continue.
Okay, the next one is the Green Agenda programme. So this is similar to some of the others. It's a programme, a series of multiple projects within it. They are progressing as part of the business as usual bits that we're doing and some other things. We are looking to do a little bit of maybe a restructuring here to help to get this more firmly assigned. So as it says in here, so in fact we had a discussion about this one today. So we just need to work out where best that sits and how to move that forward, because obviously that's an important programme.
So this Green Agenda programme, it says remains unassigned. What does this mean, if you don't mind explaining?
No, absolutely. So that's what I was just referring to. So actually what we need to do is understand where that sits. So the person who's working on this is actually on maternity leave at the moment.
Oh,
So we had a discussion earlier to look at where that sits. So we've agreed that now. So we've got an action plan and we're going to take that forward.
okay. Members? Okay. Let's continue.
Okay, page 26, so that's the revenues and benefits replacement system, so also a very large project, lots of work going on. That's going well, that's under very tight timescales, so working with the supplier very closely, working through all of the issues, so a big kind of team effort across the council in terms of trying to deliver that. That needs to go live this year.
Okay, thank you. Right. Quarterly KPI reporting. It's page 27.
Okay, so just talk through these then. So obviously on the first page we've got a couple of the customer services measures. So as you can see, the actuals against the targets, and what we've got is comments against those around why there's some of the discrepancies.
Highlights the third KPI complaints resolved within SLA. That's actually green, 89% versus target of 85%. So apologies, it's showing as amber on the report.
Sorry, I think you needed to repeat your...
Sorry, Sue, I can pick that up for you.
Yeah,
I can pick that up. So that's actually on the next page. So
that's what I thought.
Yes, it's on the next page. So it's fine, you're jumping ahead. So you're actually referring to this one on page 28.
Yes.
So the customer services complaints resolved within SLA is 89%, and we've shown it as amber. That should show green. So that's what Sue was just saying. So that's on the next page. So just going back to the previous page, are there any questions on that?
Yes, we have some members that would like to speak. Councillor Barry. That's all right. If you could switch on your microphone.
Thank you. I mean, it's fairly obvious the one that we need to look at because it's in red. I mean, I've looked at the others, but it's always going to be the red one that generates questions, I would think. I think I can understand the comment in terms of dissatisfaction around waste services, Ride London, energy rebate for council tax, because, you know, we have had difficulties. I'm not blaming anyone. We've had real difficulties around waste services, and our officers have done the best with Biffa to keep the Shell on the road, but there have been issues, and we're aware of that. Obviously, Ride London, you know, you either loved it or hated it, and I think the majority appear to love it more than hate it, but I can understand why there's going to be complaints. I can also understand complaints around, or questions around the energy rebate for council tax, but I follow that very carefully as an individual councillor, getting regular updates from Mr Pavey, and I think we dealt with that as well as we, well, better in fact than we could reasonably been expected to. But I think the way it was promoted nationally by the government kind of didn't really explain the real difficulties that councils had just to have that thrown at them. So actually I think our officers done very well. The one that I really couldn't understand was what were the complaints about the elections. I mean, was it the outcome of the elections? Well, I might agree with that, but I'm assuming it's process. So that was the, I mean, can anyone throw any light what the concerns were around elections?
Can you?
Sorry.
1 second. You are in a good mood today. That is nice. You said a lot of jokes up to here.
I've always given credit where credit's due, and I think in all those areas I've mentioned, despite public opinion, waste services, Ride London and the energy rebate for council tax, or should I say public opinion on Facebook, which is a completely different thing, our council has done, you know, very well, in fact, but it's the election one that, it's obviously to do with his process, I'm assuming.
Gary will actually give you the answer.
Thank you, Chairman. We did actually get a formal complaint about the election count from a resident about the lighting in the Condor building car park and the noise of the generator, which I responded to back in May, and we've heard nothing since. So we certainly had one formal complaint about the elections.
You want me to add feedback from the contact centre because I queried details on that. There was some confusion over, so this is the feedback from residents which came into the contact centre, confusion over where the polling station was, if they were registered to vote, and candidate information.
Okay.
And I understand from the team that that's been that feedback was shared at the time.
Well, thank you, Louise. Thank you very much. Councillor MacGyver, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I think first of all I'd like to point out on page 27 that I think it's obviously outstanding to have a 45% target and then a 70.9% sort of actual. I think that should be recognised as a really good outcome, and I think often in scrutiny we look at all the things that could be improved. I think we should also take a moment to recognise really good stories. But it is unfortunate that, of course, the customer satisfaction is you know, a different story in that regard. And I was just going to say, you know, I think it would be useful for us to know a bit more about, you know, touching on what Councillor Murray has said. You know, what was it about Ride London? Was it the fact that people phoned and they couldn't get information? In regards to the elections, again, you know, I think we should have a bit more information about these particular topics, because it might be that actually it's something that as a council we can't help, but is it our response? Are we not giving people information that is available? Is it that they find out on Facebook before they find out through their council? I think we've seen a lot of that recently. So it's a sign of the times a little bit as well. People are getting hold of information quickly in other means. But I just wanted to put on record, you know, I think we should particularly recognise the good outcome from customer services. And also I just query the target for overall customer satisfaction. I appreciate it's an 80% target, but should we as an organisation not be aiming to get 100% satisfaction always? I don't think we should just accept 20% of people might be disappointed, but if they are, it's an achievement. I think surely 100% satisfaction should be our aim with all these things.
Okay, will Sue would like to answer this?
Yeah. So concerning Ride London, and I think Jen would agree with me, that's a lot of the feedback we had was obviously disruption to residents and road closures, and people just, as was mentioned, people loved it or hated it. So that was the general feedback. In terms of the contact centre and the target, that's part of a bigger discussion. Can you hear me okay?
We have difficulties, I'm afraid.
Right, hang on. Because my other headphones are not working, but I've got some.
Why not?
Try this. Can you hear me better now?
Yes, it is better.
Okay, lovely. Yeah, in terms of the target for overall customer satisfaction, I guess we're never going to please 100% of customers, but I am looking at the targets overall. I'm also looking at the resourcing model, so looking at the call volumes that we're getting coming into the contact centre, what our resilience, what our capacity is, what our call volume should be per agent. There's quite some key messages coming from that, because we haven't got the resourcing model in place at the moment, certainly to be achieving 100% satisfaction in terms of call rates. So I just wanted to put that into perspective. It's part of a bigger conversation, but obviously we aim to please as many customers as we can.
Thank you very much. One second. Can I welcome Councillor Barnett? We knew that you were going to be late. The only thing I wanted to ask you, if you have any declaration of interest. Thank you very much. Councillor MacGyver.
Thank you, Chairman. It was just to come back on Sue's point. Thank you for that, Sue. And I just wanted to ask, when we are measuring customer satisfaction and we're getting this data, is it they're rating the outcome, as in do they like the answer or do they don't like the answer, probably in many cases, or is it that they're measuring how they've been treated as a customer? Are we asking them, when we take this measure, are you happy with the are you happy with the answer, or are you happy with how you've been treated?
So if you can...
Yeah, I have done. Yeah, so it's basically, are they happy with the answer they're getting? And if you look at the majority of complaints that we get, it's customer expectations, because we can't always give customers what they want. So it's not agent performance. It's actually they're not happy with the outcome and the answer that they're getting. So that's what the customer satisfaction is based on.
Okay. Andrew?
Yeah, can I just add to that, actually, if that's okay, Chairman? I suppose we have to recognise that when we're considering what a customer service standard should be, that we're an organisation that has to give out bad news to people as well as good news as well. So we're not just providing services that people want. Sometimes we're having to give negative answers to people who wanted a different outcome, whether it's homelessness or a variety of other services. So we're never going to achieve 100% satisfaction, I wouldn't have thought, really. Even if we treated people with respect and dignity and given them the right answer, they might still not thank us for that outcome, really. So I think, whilst it's good to aspire and good to set challenging targets, I think we have to be realistic for the purposes of motivating staff, really, as much as anything, in terms of being realistic about what target's achievable.
Okay. Councillor Wixley.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, Councillor McIver mentioned about the target. I just wondered why the customer services first point resolution target was only 45%. I would have thought we ought to be aiming a little bit higher than that.
I think that's what Councillor McIver asked.
I wasn't sure if he was asking respect to first point resolution. I thought he was referring to the early one. I have to say, I'm finding great difficulty in hearing what Susan is saying. So she may well have answered that question, but I probably missed it.
Okay, so I will be reviewing all the KPIs. As what I was saying is there's a few things I need to fix first. We need to look at our resourcing and our capacity model, because that's not currently working. Our abandonment rate is higher than I'd like it to be. So I know that quite often people say, well, customers are hanging on the phones too long. Yes, they are, because we currently don't have the right resourcing model in place. So I'm just putting it into perspective, completely hear you. So yes, first point resolution, they're actually doing a fantastic job with the resource that we have got and the knowledge that they've got right across the council in resolving 70%. And that, to be honest, is probably the highest I've actually seen it. It's normally around 60%. So yes, we will be putting the target up, but what I don't want to do is put the targets up at the moment. The team, their health and wellbeing has been of concern because they, as you can imagine, they've been faced with very irate customers during the waste crisis. And my priority at the moment is to look after the team and at a later stage and get the resourcing model right. And at a later stage, we'll get some better targets in place.
Okay. They will put, the outcome is that they will put the percentage up.
Yeah, I just say, I think the sound quality is so before, but I look to catching up when the minutes come out.
Any other members? Any other members? Okay, please continue. Yeah.
Okay, so looking at the measures on page 28 then, so we've got the customer services measure around complaints resolved within SLA. This is the one I just flagged previously, so 89%, that should actually be showing as green. The other thing I wanted to point out, we have used the word, or the words, due to the BIFA crisis in the report. Actually, I think that's probably disproportionate to the words we should have used. So I've got a further update from James on that. So there have been obviously staff shortages, and I think somebody else alluded to this earlier, which has resulted in missed bin collections. However, waste has still been collected in the week of collection, and missed collections is only affecting less than 5% of properties and improving. And then we have two other measures, one around community health and wellbeing, homelessness approaches, and around temporary accommodation, which we've got the data in there for.
Members. Councillor Murray?
Yes, I think we've got Jennifer Goulding on the meeting. I think you said that at the beginning. we've got a 7% increase on the same period last year. Is there any evidence that we're having a similar increase this year? I know this is monitoring what's happened in the past, but that's provoked that question because it obviously is a serious issue. So I just wondered if the indications are that we're likely to have a similar increase on both of these this year.
Jennifer Gould, yes. Please.
Yeah. So the 7% increase represents the increase that we've seen in Q1 this year as opposed to Q1 last year. And there is a corresponding increase in the numbers in temporary accommodation. And what I can tell you is that the increase in approaches comes from kind of three main sources of homelessness, really. One is domestic abuse. So although we're still not talking huge numbers for Epping Forest, we are talking about a 50% increase in the numbers of people that are approaching us for housing assistance as a result of domestic abuse. We've had just below a 50% increase in the numbers of people approaching us as a result of the ending of an assured short hold tenancy, and that was always to be expected. So over the last 2 years, we've had a decrease in the numbers approaching as a result of ending of tenancies, and that's because there was a moratorium on evictions throughout the pandemic. So we were expecting that, and we probably actually need to go back a couple of years to see whether those levels are now at pre-pandemic levels or whether they do truly represent an increase. And the other is relationship breakdown, so non-violent relationship breakdown. Again, we've seen about a 50% increase in the numbers approaching, with that being the main cause of homelessness. Still, though, the biggest single cause of homelessness in the district is friend and or family licence termination, so where somebody's living with friends or family and they're asked to leave. So your question about do I anticipate an increase in homelessness which is sustained throughout this year? Yes, I do. What that actually looks like, I can't tell you necessarily. It's something that I am keeping an extremely close eye on, not least because of the Ukrainian refugee situation as well. So we know that we've got a number of Ukrainian refugees within the district who are either here through the family sponsorship scheme or the Homes for Ukraine scheme. They are now starting to come to the end of those initial 6-month periods. And again, we don't quite know what's going to happen. And we're working toward trying to take the temperature, if you like, of some of that so that we can kind of gauge what, if any, demand might be. But that coupled with the sustained increase in domestic abuse we're seeing and the cost of living crisis, I would anticipate that we are going to see a sustained increase, yes.
Come back, yeah.
Just provoke one other question that I think of general interest. If there isn't a national continuation of a scheme for the Ukrainian families, does that mean then any residual housing demands will fall on local authorities, and Epping Forest being one of them, or is the housing world looking for a continuation of schemes from a national level?
So Ukrainian refugees have had recourse to housing assistance from local authorities from day one. So there has been at no point has there been a period of time where they didn't have access to that safety net. So to answer your question, if a Ukrainian refugee family finds themselves in a situation where their sponsor is no longer able to accommodate them and we can't find a rematch for them, then and they have no means with which to secure their own independent accommodation, then yes, they can approach us for housing assistance, and they would be considered under Part 7 of the Homelessness Act as like everybody else. I think probably what it's also, and I'm painting a very bleak picture here, I do appreciate that, but it's probably also worth noting that, don't forget, we still have got a number of Afghan people in bridging hotels across the country, and government are sending out fairly regular correspondence about the requirement to find longer term settled and sustained accommodation for that group as well. So there are a number of competing priorities that we are trying to manage very sensitively.
Councillor Barnett.
Hi, thanks for that. There's talk about abolition of the Section 21 notice in the next, in the coming months, perhaps the next year. Do you anticipate that leading to a flurry of applications being made to the council, perhaps because landlords are trying to will probably try and get their Section 21 notices done before the date of inception of that abolition?
Yeah, so we are already seeing quite a number of private sector landlords exiting the market as a result of the talk of ending Section 21s. It's always been a really contentious issue. It's been spoken about for a number of years now, but I think we are probably closer to the ending of Section 21s than we ever have been. That coupled with requirements on private sector landlords around other sort of regulation and property condition it means that a number are choosing simply to exit because the increased regulation makes it not an attractive proposition, and certainly for some who don't have a whole portfolio of properties, it means that it's no longer financially viable. So we are already seeing the impact of that. Whether that will gather pace or not, I don't know. I think it's probably going to be sort of a bit of a trickle effect over the coming months, really, as people sort of exit the market one by one. We may see a flurry at the end. It really depends what is decided on it within the Act when it becomes one. So I would imagine that we're still going to see some amendments to the bill around the ending of Section 21. So it sort of depends on how compromised the current recommendations get, I think.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. Any other members? No? Yeah.
I don't know what Section 21 is, so, can anyone tell me?
A Section 21 notice is a notice that landlords can give their tenants to leave their accommodation without a reason. So a Section 21 means a no-fault eviction. So a landlord can serve you with a Section 21 notice because for any reason they choose, and it is not possession isn't discretionary. So judge, if it gets to the point where it goes in front of a judge, the judge has no option but to award possession back to the landlord.
Okay. Shall we continue then? Thank you very much. Please.
Okay, great. So on to page 29, there's 2 further community health and wellbeing measures on there, and we've put in the numbers and the commentary around it. The contracts measure, at the time of writing the report, we didn't actually have that data, so we haven't included that. We will include that subsequently when we have that.
Councillor Marek?
We are on page 29?
We are page 29.
Lovely. 2 other really positive things, and as you say, I'm in a positive mood tonight. Whether it will last till Thursday, I don't know, but I'll do my best. I just wanted to say fantastic engagement in community, physical and cultural activity. I think this council has kept the show on the road. Only this morning I heard on Radio 4 about how engagement in particularly physical activity had not gone back to pre-COVID levels yet, particularly among women. That was what the experts were saying on the Today programme this morning. So that is good. And as regards Loughton, I know it started elsewhere in other parts of the district, but as regards Loughton, we had our first play in the park. We've got 9 sessions across the town in two key places. And we had our first session today right by near where I live, so I took the opportunity to wander over and have a word. And it was absolutely fantastic. And what was good was that it was free. And a lot of what we're offering during the holiday is reasonably priced. Some of it is quite expensive, but I understand if you're offering you know, a really good range of things, there are going to be some things that are expensive. But this play in the park, and I do think that the parishes also contribute. So it's a good joint. When I say contribute, I mean financially contribute. I think it's a good cross council activity, and certainly the one I saw in Loughton this afternoon on the Roding Valley Recreation Ground was humming. And then the other one, and I mean I know the government makes it very difficult for us anyway, almost insists that we don't use bed and breakfast accommodation. So our target was naught, and we actually did that. No families in bed and breakfast for more than 6 weeks, and that's a really good thing that we've been able to achieve. So fantastic, Chairman.
Councillor Wixley?
Yeah, well, to some extent, Councillor Murray has beaten me to the punch, because much what he was said I was going to say myself, but of course it's always a case of age before beauty, so I'm quite happy for him to go first. But yeah, I would like to pay a compliment actually to Jennifer, and I'm sure Jill Wallace is heavily involved in this and all the team. It is regarding the item on the top of page 29, engagement with the community in physical and cultural activity, because I've been so impressed by what's in this booklet. I don't know if members have seen it. It's called What's On, but you can get the same thing off the website. And it's all that's been put on between July and September, and it's just, I was really impressed, because I know that we put things like Play in the Park on every year, but I don't. This seems to cover so many other activities as well. So I think it really deserves to be perhaps appreciation if the committee agree and the chairman agree that if we could show our appreciation, and that could be recorded in the minutes. So that's my proposal. I hope it receives the support it deserves.
Yeah, I think we all agree. Okay, Mary.
So moving on to page 30, I mean maybe I do 30 and 31 together. So there's one around membership, and we've got the data in there, and then the one on page 31 is also around membership, around swimming membership.
I would like actually, in this instance, James Warwick, if he could give us an update, please, because we do have here awaiting data. Do you have anything more recent to inform us?
Yeah, regarding that KPI, that's in there by error. We don't report on casual swimming, so that shouldn't have been in the report. That needs to be removed, because we agreed, as you may recall, Chairman, at the Leisure Management Partnership Board that
yes,
we would report the same KPIs to Overview and Scrutiny that the Leisure Management Partnership Board report, and we no longer, Places Leisure, no longer report on the casual swimming. It's the swimming membership and swimming lessons. But I can update on some of the data. When this report was put together, we didn't have the month of June. So the only thing that changes in the report is the gym memberships. It's actually reporting that there's been a decrease. In fact, I'm pleased to say there's been an increase. So gym memberships have increased across all sites. However, which kind of echoes Councillor Murray's comments, this the figures don't reflect pre-pandemic levels, so they're still a lot lower than pre-pandemic. However, there's current gym promotion on at Loughton Leisure Centre, and we are seeing a rise in the gym memberships.
Okay, thank you for that, James. I know that the Leisure Management Partnership Board is on the 1st of August. Yeah. Councillor Marley.
Yeah, that's triggered an additional question to what I was going to ask. But my first question, based on, this is on page 30, based on the quarter that's been reported there, and it might be because of what happened in previous quarters, but if you take Loughton and Ongar as a kind of norm, Epping is a standout figure. Why in that particular quarter did Epping decrease so much more as a percentage than Loughton and Ongar? And I know there's statistics and damn statistics, and you can read anything to anything, but it did just seem, why is it 26% in Epping and only 14 and 15% in Ongar? And why did Waltham Abbey have the smallest decrease? And it may purely because of what happened, you know, the previous quarter before that. I understand that, but is there any kind of obvious explanation? And when you say that currently they're increasing, presumably not increasing enough to make up for this decrease in quarter one, they're increasing on the new base figure, are they, when you're saying they're increasing in quarter two? Thank you.
James?
Yeah, thank you. No, there is a obvious explanation. There was an error in terms of the figures that Places Leisure presented. So I can, after the meeting, I can provide amended figures which will show that all four facilities there was an increase in gym membership instead of a decrease. However, as I mentioned, this increase is still not back to pre-pandemic levels, which is a reflection across the leisure industry and not just unique to this contract.
Sorry to come back, Chairman. So can I just clarify? He's saying for the quarter that's been reported here, those figures are wrong, and that in fact for all the centres there was actually an increase.
Yes. Could we have all that information for the minutes, please, James?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll provide that.
Councillor McGarvey.
Thank you, Chairman. This may throw this query out now of what we've just learned, but I mean, we do seem to hear a lot about some, figures sometimes, like a retrospective correction. I think it would be good if we know that in advance of meetings to have a bit of an indication of that. But page 30, when it shows a 15% decrease for Ongar, which I think you're showing as now an increase. In Ongar particularly, on page 31, when you then look at the swimming, 35% up. I just wondered, is that because there's been a big group join or something? So it is a bit of an anomaly, that figure. And I was then wondering, is it that people are cancelling the general membership but they want to retain access to swimming pools because that's basically the only thing they're going for? And if that is the case, what are we doing to encourage people to not do that? Because of course it must be a small financial difference, and we obviously want to encourage people to do all sorts of activity, and to if we're going to encourage people to be have active, healthy lifestyles, we want them doing all the other stuff that the facilities offer. We don't want to see those facilities not be used and then we have loads of really busy pools. That to me could be starting a trend, and I totally understand the cost of living crisis, people are looking to make savings, but is there anything we can do to encourage people not to do that and explain the benefits of not doing that?
James?
Yeah, so since the pandemic, swimming is the one sport that has seen huge increases in numbers, probably because it's the one activity that very few people could actually do at home, whereas the gym memberships, I think people's exercise habits changed, so we're not, as I've mentioned, we're not seeing the numbers that we anticipated returning to the gyms. I think with Ongar, the increase during the lockdown, a lot of refurbishment work was done on Ongar Pool, and the facility has improved, so it continues to attract new members, and certainly swimming remains popular. We are working closely with Places Leisure on gym promotions at the moment, which I think have only just started, and early indications are these are having a positive effect of attracting people back to the gyms. But we will continue to work closely with Places Leisure to offer incentives to encourage people back, not just to gym memberships, but exercise classes as well.
Okay. Any other member? Right. Mary, could we continue?
Okay.
Page 32.
32. Two KPIs on this one. One kind of building on what I think we've just been discussing around number of people doing swimming lessons. So we've got the information there. And then the second one on here is around the waste contract and recycling rates, which, as you can see, has been impacted by the some of the miscollections that we also referred to earlier.
Okay. Members? No? Okay, please continue.
Okay, on the next one, household waste, so as you can see a little bit above, a result of pandemic, things that people still have and getting rid of. The rent arrears KPI is currently green, and I do have the data for the planning and development KPI on the bottom of that page. So shall I just read that through? So percentage of applications determined within agreed timescales for majors. The Q1 actual is 100%, target is 90%. The percentage of applications determined within agreed timescales, this actually goes on to the next page, for minors for Q1 actuals is 75.3%, target is 80%, and the percentage of applications determined with agreed timescales other for Q1, the actual is 72% and the target is 80%.
Members? Councillor Barnett?
Sorry, perhaps I missed it, but contracts waste, did that already get covered? I was following up to the learning to swim, and then I think we moved on to...
Yes. On page 32, it is contracts waste.
Did we cover that? Did I miss it?
Yeah.
We did. Can I raise a point? Can I
Yes,
just ask a question on it? Sorry. 2 weeks ago, I got a flurry of emails, about 10, from residents about the missed recycling. James, credit to James, who tried his best in responding, and I thank him for his efforts in doing so. I think the reasons were attributed to shortage of staff, not having enough vehicles on the roads. And also, I think James did point out that actually going forward, it's going to continue being a problem in terms of number of vehicles on the roads and number of staffing on the who are available. Is there anything that can be done about it? Because it is a source of major concern to many residents, and they're saying, well, we can't miss our council tax payments, so why should our recycling be missed?
I must say that if you phone Epping Forest District Council, the first announcement is about the problem in the recycling and the refuse collection, to be honest with you. But James, could you answer this, please?
Yeah, we're trying to do everything we can, working closely with our waste contractor. I think a week last Monday, we started off on a positive with no miscollections. However, due to the hot weather, the extreme hot weather, we agreed with Biffa that they would have half-day collection on the Tuesday and catch up on the Saturday. However, we then had 5 agency drivers fail to show up on Saturday, which has led to the miscollections that we've got at the moment. So we're working closely with Biffa to resolve those issues. They're trying to recruit staff. The unions have agreed a pay deal, which should come into effect from August. So we hope that that will help to settle a few things down. We've updated comms today on the website to try and keep residents informed of what we're doing and what's happening and how to report the miscollection. Yeah, BIFA directors are coming in a couple of weeks to meet with Cabinet to discuss the ongoing issues, and hopefully we will be able to resolve these as quick as we can.
Okay. Now this time I will have Councillor Wixley and then Councillor Murray.
That's definitely age before beauty.
Yeah, just on a point that Councillor Bennett's raised, I think there's a report which will be a bit revealing in the agenda for full council meeting this coming Thursday. So Councillor Nigel Aveley's report refers to the problem, I think, with some of the drivers of waste collection vehicles. They're finding other jobs, and there's some actually concerning reasons why some of them are leaving, and apparently it's abuse from residents. So not very encouraging, that, but that's part of the problem.
Councillor Murray.
He must be another brother from another mother, because he's kind of just said what I was going to say. So we're playing swapsy, David, on this issue, just like we were on the cultural issue. I've obviously read the report that's there for Thursday, and I just wanted to say loud and clear, and I'm sure everyone agrees, however fed up a small number of people are, because the vast bulk of collections haven't been affected. We heard the percentage, I think it's 5%, and that's too many, and there are real issues. But however strongly people feel, and however aggrieved they feel, being abusive to the staff that BIFA employ is never acceptable. And it's made the situation worse. I don't know how many people have walked off at the end of the day following abuse by members of the public, but the fact that the portfolio holder has deemed it important enough to mention in his written report to full council on Thursday means that it must be a problem of some magnitude, and I think we just need to say loud and clear that abuse of our contracted staff is never acceptable, and in fact you're just making a difficult situation worse, because why would you go back to work the following day if you can earn more money down the road if you're facing abuse? That's exactly what I would do.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's a fair comment. Councillor Whitbread.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Murray and Councillor Wixley, because I think they're really sensible comments and helpful to the situation we find ourselves in. It's not just Epping Forest that has an issue with recruitment and retention of staff in these areas. It's really, really difficult out there at the moment, and across the board. You know, there is a shortage of people wanting to do jobs, and that's the real problem that we currently face. I'm really pleased that we have directors coming in from BIFA to meet with myself and members of the Cabinet in the coming week. I think that's really important. I have to pay tribute to the work of our officers in trying to keep the whole show on the road. Yes. I think James has done a brilliant job along with his team in achieving that. And I obviously thank the BIFA teams that have been out there, and in particular last week in the sweltering heat, yes, which a lot of people decided not to go to work in. They were actually out there from 6:30 in the morning collecting our rubbish. I'm frustrated like any resident when my recycling bags don't disappear. It's only happened to me twice, and I recognise the fact they've got new teams working. I know in some other areas it's been more difficult, in particular rural areas, as Councillor Balcom has made me aware a number of times. But the good thing is, whenever we're made aware of something, I know our officer team are working with BIFA to try and address those problems. So I think, you know, we've got a job at hand to try and address the issue. I know our officers are on the game, trying to work hard to make sure our residents get the service they deserve and they feel that their council tax is being well spent. But this is a problem not just in Epping Forest, but across the country as a whole at the moment.
Yeah, we had fair comments. Councillor Braymond.
Thank you, Chair. I agree with everything that's been said, But I think there is one thing being overlooked with this contract, is that all the vehicles were new at the same date and aged at the same time. So they're all going to break down at the same time. And I think this is something that should be looked at in the next contract, because we don't seem to have any backup on the vehicles when they do go down.
Okay, fair comment, Councillor Balcom. Can we continue, please? So we are still on page 33.
33. So, okay, so moving on then, the last metric on page 33 is the planning development one, and that was the one that I gave the verbal updates for. Would you like me to go through those again? They go on to 33 and then on to page 34.
In the housing management,
on the bottom of page 33, the planning and development metric around percentage of applications determined for majors. And then on page 34, there's the planning development measure.
No, I'm still thinking of page 33. Okay. On the housing management, rent arrears.
Okay.
Yeah, there is no explanation, nothing. Perhaps if we ask Rochelle to help us to...
I think Jenny Gould's going to take it.
Jenny Gould, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. Hi. No, that's okay. Yeah, Rochelle sends her apologies. Just in terms of the rent arrears, the team are working very hard. I think the investment in Rent Sense for the team to help them manage those arrears and keep that figure down has been very successful. So still working hard, obviously keeping an eye on what's happening in terms of cost of living and making sure that we are supporting tenants where we need to, where they are experiencing increasing kind of household bills. So again, it's one to watch, but otherwise the team are doing a good job and meeting that.
Okay, thanks a lot. Perhaps now we can go to page 34.
Great, so at the bottom of page 33, and then moving on to page 34 are the metrics for the applications. So would you like me to go through those again? So obviously did a verbal update for those. So should I just go through them quickly again? Okay, so on the bottom of page 34 then, so the percentages for majors for quarter one, the actual was 100% and the target was 90%. Moving on to page 34, the percentage of applications determined for minors for quarter one, the actual was 75.3% and the target was 80. And for the percentage of applications determined with agreed timelines for other, for the quarter one actual, the actual was 72%.
Okay,
and at the bottom, the bottom metric is an annual one, so we don't report on that on a quarterly basis.
Okay, we have Nigel Richardson with us, so where it says awaiting data, perhaps you could give us an update at all?
Sorry, that's what Mary Yvonne's just given you. She's put the figures in there for you.
Oh,
she just read them out.
Oh, right, okay, that is it then, thank you. Okay, I thought you will give us a much more detailed update on that. Sorry.
Well, Chairman, I can do that if you want me to explain them a bit more.
How the members, are they interested to hear that? Yes, please.
As Nigel's on the call, we might as well use his services.
Thank you. Well, the major applications, first of all, that's good news. That's 100%, even though the major planning applications tend to be a lower number. So in that case, there was 7 planning applications. All of them were dealt with in time. The minor applications, it hasn't hit the target there, and the same with the next category as well. Probably the main reason for that, if you recall, there was a backlog of planning applications that we're quietly working our way through, but inevitably, of course, it does mean that applications have been going over time. We can ask for an extension of time, but it does rely upon the developer or the applicant making the planning application to agree to that. So that's been a bit of a challenge for us because of that backlog. But that's some of the background to those three measures. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Barry.
That just raises another question then, because planning isn't my expertise. If they don't agree to the extension of time, how is that resolved?
Well, it isn't, to be honest. It means that if it goes over, so most of the planning applications were meant to deal with them within 8 weeks from when they're made valid. The major applications, we have 13 weeks. But if they don't agree to an extension of time and it goes over that 8 weeks or 13 weeks in the case of the majors, it means we haven't hit our target. We don't get penalised in any other way, but it does mean we haven't hit our target on that particular application.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. Now we continue, please. So we'll go page 35.
Page 35, okay. So page 35, moving on to people-related metrics. So we have two on this page. One as regards ethnicity and one for disability. And we've put the metrics in there with a commentary against them.
Councillor Murray.
I've made this comment before, Chairman, and there's two different dichotomies here. I fully respect people's right to withhold the information, but I just still find it quite staggering in this day and age, particularly in a public sector working environment, 20% of our staff feel that they want to withhold that. I just cannot get my head around that. I mean, certainly, unless I've seen and I don't think I've seen counter evidence, it's just regarded as so normal in the field of education that as I say, I respect people's right to withhold, but I just find that a staggeringly high percentage of staff in our local authority that feel they want to withhold that, and I just can't help feeling that indicates, unless I'm missing something, a misunderstanding on their part of why that information is collected. And I do note that the people team will continue to run publicity campaigns, presumably around why that information is collected. But as I say, it's not the right to withhold. I understand that, but 1 in 5 seems a staggeringly high percentage to me.
Yeah, I agree on that. I think maybe a way of actually introducing, telling them the reasons we actually do it, maybe bringing them and feeling more free to actually feel that they can express and say what they would like. But we do it because of diversity, and we want to measure that, and that we are fair to everybody. Councillor McGarver.
Thank you. I think it's really important we recognise diversity and, like you say, Madam Chairman, the benefits of it. I'm not too concerned about 19% of people withholding it. In fact, it wouldn't bother me if that was 50% of people. I believe in the choice in disclosure. What concerns me more is that 4.61% of quite a large organisation is unknown. That to me is more of a concern. Is that unknown because they've not filled in the form? Is that unknown because they enrolled here before we had to ask these questions? I just think we ought to know these things. I don't think it should be unknown. I'd rather that they withheld that information than we just didn't know. I think that's actually, from a cultural perspective, could be a problem in a member of staff could offend somebody and there's no way of knowing because we don't know where they put themselves. And the second question I had was with regards to disability, is that mental or physical disability? Because it seems quite low if it's both.
Okay. We have the right person, I think, to answer this, and I'll ask Paula McGuinness to answer your questions.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. In terms of unknown, that is a category, so people have a choice to choose that as well. And we do publicise and remind people to complete these questions on the payroll and HR system on a relatively regular basis. In terms of the other question about disability, it is both physical and mental disabilities that people can record whether they've got a disability or not. And again, that's not the organisation making that choice, that is our employees doing that.
Could you allow to come back?
Thank you for that answer and clarifying. Would HR or does HR know who the unknowns are, and is it statutory to provide that option?
It's not statutory, no. We have a choice of how we set the system, the HR payroll system up with a number of categories. So it's not a statutory choice that we have to include that option.
Okay. Councillor Barnett.
Hi, I may have made this point at a previous overview and scrutiny meeting. Is this issue with black and minority ethnic and then white all, where would white ethnic minority ethnics fit in? Would they fit into white all or black and minority ethnic?
Can you?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question, please? I just missed the first part of your question.
If you were a white minority ethnic, which group would you fit into for the purposes of this statistic?
Under each of these headings, there are a number of subcategories that fit into these overall headings. So there could be white, Irish, Scottish, Welsh, etc. Is that what you're asking? Just so I'm clear.
For example, if I was white but a member of, let's say, a travelling community.
Yes, there is the option, yes.
So that would come under white and not minority ethnic, is that right?
That's right, yep.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Councillor Wixley?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I just wonder if it would be a help if we could actually see the questionnaire itself, if they could be attached to the minutes. It might give a clearer idea of exactly what's being asked. And also I'd like to know what the perceived benefits are of asking these questions, because I have to admit I'm slightly of the view that people are people and you know, everybody should be treated equally and fairly, but I'm open to learning a bit more about this.
Paula, would you like to make a
comment?
Yeah,
we can certainly add that to the minutes, on both counts.
Thank you. Okay, so any other member? No? Page 36, please, Mary.
Okay. So the last two metrics in the pack, both still people metrics, one around turnover and one around absence. So both of those metrics are reporting green, and we've put an update in there. And we did also look, so there was a comment about staff absence related to a previous year, so we did have a look at that, and it's comparable as well. Because obviously in the first quarter you only see this quarter, you don't see last year. Happy to take any questions.
Members? Councillor Murray?
Yes, it's only because there's been a change of practice in schools, so I wondered if there'd been a change of practice in local authority. If someone testing positive on COVID, does that come under a different category in terms of days off, or is it now regarded as normal sick absence? Because in education it's now regarded as part of your sick absence total. So I wondered what the situation was in local authorities about a positive COVID test and needing to isolate. Does that count as sickness absence?
Yeah. Paula, could you answer this?
I'll come back and clarify that, Councillor Murray. Obviously things have changed. We don't have the same restrictions anymore around COVID. The description is still certainly on our HR payroll system for somebody that the reason that they're off absent for COVID, but I'll just double check that, because I'm not 100% sure myself.
Yeah, that would be interesting, Madam Chairman, because as I say, in education, and I think it's happened nationally, schools now count that as part of your sickness total, and consequences can follow.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Mary, very much. And we go to item 10, which is the chairman of the select committees to report on progress. And it's page 37. We start with the stronger communities. Councillor Ginny Lee.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, with our meeting, we've co-opted Wyn Marshall on as a non-voting member because he's the chairman of the Tenants and the Leaseholders Forum. So I think it's actually quite good because it gives other people's views because, you know, so it must help them. We was asked for a recommendation on all cash-paying customers to be issued with all pay cards. It was agreed with the team that was here, but I mean, I'm a cash person, so I'm not cards and all this technology, but, you know, it was agreed that, and we'll try it, and if it doesn't work, then there was obviously the transfer of the services from the Broadway Housing Office. We weren't really sure where it was being transferred to. That wasn't made very clear. But again, I think it's something that we will just have to keep a check on. But only having 13 people in a week going to an office to pay does seem a lot of waste if it can be done somewhere else. And I believe it's something sharing with the church. But again, until it's settled down, and obviously David's looked into it more, I can see. There was good news on the Frank Breton House refurbishment, which I'm sure Holly. And then, of course, there's quite a lot of policy changes and things going on, and we're lucky we've got such good staff in that department, because I just think, one, they're working very hard, and we're just going to have to follow and see what's going on as the policies change. So I don't think until it's all settled down, and also I do think people are still getting over COVID, some just because they're lazy and don't want to go out to work, but some because it's affected them so badly. So it was quite a good meeting. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Wixley.
Yeah, I think I need to explain that.
1 second, could you switch off?
Oh,
your...
sorry.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, I'll probably gives an opportunity to explain why at the communities meeting I couldn't support the transfer of services from the Broadway Housing Office. The reason being was that there was some suggestion it was going to be in Loughton High Road, which would be about, roughly speaking, depending where you measure it, about 2 miles away from the Broadway, where the current office is. And I would imagine that, although 13 visits isn't very many, but most of the residents are likely to use the existing office, probably live on the Debden estate, and they probably call in there when they're shopping in the Broadway. So for that to be transferred to somewhere unknown in the High Road, and it seemed that was a possibility, to me was unacceptable. I've since spoken to Councillor Murray, who knows a bit more about these things than me, and I understand that the office referred to is in fact going to be in the Broadway. I think on the other side of the road where the Restore Community Church used to have a unit. So that would be acceptable because it's just on the other side of the road, but I'm afraid 2 miles away in an area which is not really related to the Debden estate would be totally unsuitable. So that's the reason I couldn't support it on the night. If we'd simply had the address of where it was, then it would have been fine. But it was, I was quite surprised by the omission of that information.
Well, that's good news. Yes. Okay, well, thank you very much. Councillor Murray?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I do want to just pick up on a couple of issues that the Chairman, Councillor Lee, mentioned. I was unable to get to this meeting, unfortunately. Not a massive illness, but I just wasn't up to attending. Wasn't well. I have to be honest and say I'm not convinced about the Broadway. yes, we are where we are with it and it's not going to reverse. And I think there's previous decisions that have led to the number of people that are using it. That's because of previous decisions we made that we shouldn't have made. And I can't help thinking the poor old Councillor Joan Davis will be turning in her grave when she read that after the battle that we had to get a Broadway housing office. But I do understand things change, but I'm not persuaded that that's the right decision, I have to say. I've got some bad news for Councillor Lee. Once they've made the move that they're going to make towards cards and cashless, they won't be going back to money. So don't think it's a decision that will be reversed, because that ain't going to happen, I'm afraid. And then because of the comment she made, I do just want to make another really positive comment tonight. When John Scott, and I mean obviously lots of other officers were involved, but you know, when John Scott ran housing in the council, I thought, oh, how are we going to do without John Scott? And then Alan Hall and Roger Wilson, plus others, came along, and I thought, oh, well, how are we going to cope without Alan Hall and Roger Wilson? The team that we've got now, and I will include the portfolio holder in this as well, the team that we have got now is absolutely outstanding in my view. Some of the best officers, definitely the best portfolio holder by a million miles in my view, Councillor Holly Whitbread, I have to say. Very attentive, on top of your portfolio, respond speedily to emails. I hope I'm not doing your career any harm. But I honestly think that the team is outstanding, and I know we haven't got Deborah on the call, but we have got Jennifer Gould on the call. So, I mean, it's just a view of one independent councillor. Can you pass that back, please? Because I just find every experience and feedback that I get from the housing just continues to impress me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your kind words. Can I ask Andrew Small, please?
Can I just clarify, I'm sorry, in relation to the cash payment report, that we still will be allowing tenants and residents to pay by cash. So it's still a facility, it's just provided in a different way, that's all.
So everybody happy? Wow. Okay, so shall we go then to Stronger Council Select Committee? Councillor MacGyver.
Thank you, Chairman. So the Stronger Council Select Committee met for the first time this year on the 21st of July, and there was 3 verbal reports, one on the People's Strategy, one on the Azure move to the cloud, and one on the budget monitoring for that quarter. And I first would like to put on record my thanks to all the officers who were in the meeting in person giving their reports. And the reason why I mention that is because on discussion of the work programme, the committee agreed to add to the work programme, and we're going to clarify on the sort of wording of this, but basically that we feel that officer attendance in meetings and the effectiveness on Zoom is something that we should scrutinise at the committee. Members did pick up on planning as an area of specific concern, and the wording of exactly what we will do for our work programme is yet to be sort of constructed, but it won't be focusing on any particular meetings, but a holistic view of officer attendance in meetings, and in particular planning, I'm sure, will be a big part of that discussion. And I think it's very important, as Councillor Brooks pointed out at the meeting, that this is probably the most appropriate time to discuss it as we are effectively out of the lockdown way of COVID. It's now become, for many people, convenience. In many ways, it's very effective. It enables people, like this evening, it's effective. But there has been, I think we've all experienced occasions where it's been ineffective and unhelpful. And it generally is in planning meetings when we need to clarify something. And of course, my concern as a councillor, and particularly in the scrutiny function, is do we lose the spontaneous discussion and fruitful ideas phase of discussion. It can be very much on Zoom, you know, thank you very much, you're on mute now, we've had your report, but actually when people are in attendance and in meetings, there is that, you know, ad hoc contribution, which I think is important. So that's something that we'll be looking into doing. There is, of course, the work programme. I won't go through each line of it, but the work programme is quite standard. I'm hoping that as time goes on, we will add things to the work programme. I certainly intend on making sure we add things to the work programme, Madam Chairman, but that's where we are now, and I think all members will be really pleased that we're looking into the effectiveness of Zoom and how we make sure we use Zoom. I hope one of the outcomes will be is that we find a sort of a system and a procedural kind of norm of how Zoom is used and what it should be used for, and when officers must be in attendance, not making it, you know, favourable or unfavourable. We want to find a sort of a practical way forward so that we know what the expectation is, because I think if members know what the expectation is, then it's less likely to cause people, you know, frustration when they don't have an officer in meeting. That's it. Thank you.
Yes, well, my aim actually it is impossible to have all the officers in attendance, but isn't it nice to actually have questions but have the answers instead of coming back to you? Because then we are webcasting and people can actually see the answer, can hear the answers. Councillor Murray.
Yeah, I would agree with your point, Madam Chairman, particularly like take the last item where we went through the last quarter. That was obviously going to generate a lot of questions in a lot of areas, and you weren't going to have all those officers actually in physical attendance just for you know, they might get a question, but to have them on Zoom worked really well. But again, I'm really pleased that this select committee is going to look at Zoom and the criteria of when you attend a meeting and when you don't. I think that will help members, but I also think it will help officers as well. And I would agree, I mean, I think it's an open door. Most of us in planning feel that the planning, it works much better when the planning officer is there, because you know, it's just self-evident really, so I won't go through the reasons. But my question was, is there going to be some mechanism where you're going to get a feedback from all councillors and even officers when you carry out this review?
Councillor McGowan.
I think once we have the exact clarification on what we're going to look at, and it will be added to the work programme, of course I'd invite all members to liaise with me, committee members, and of course members are welcome to attend all meetings as and when to provide their opinion on these matters. But of course this is only going to be good scrutiny if the scrutiny goes beyond the Stronger Council select committee. We need to have engagement from everyone. There's not somebody on the committee that I chair, there isn't a member that then represents every committee of this council, so it's really important that people share their experiences of when things have gone really well with Zoom, when things could have been better, and that's going to be really important. And of course I welcome, and I'm sure the committee will welcome everybody's feedback on that.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much. Right, so we go to Stronger Place, the Select Committee, and perhaps we could actually put on the agenda, it is Councillor Raymond Balcom.
Thank you, Chair. The place meeting, we were actually unlucky in some ways that it was right early on the 5th of July, which actually meant that the terms of reference programme hadn't been completed really, and because we hadn't had the overview and scrutiny committee meeting or the scrutiny committee chairman and vice chairman's meeting. But we did talk about it and we're going to look at it further in the next meeting. The main item for our first meeting was the litter strategy, which was presented, funnily enough, by James Warwick. It's a new document. This was heavily discussed and scrutinised for a long time. It was felt that the committee could not recommend this document at present. The actual committee feeling was it was just a statement of fact and not enough emphasis was placed on the actual what the document needed. For example, enforcement, education. There was no strategy. Lack of information on rural parts of the district who have problems with fly tipping and rubbish. Liaison with town and parish councils. liaison with neighbouring authorities. It was agreed that the document, though important, should not be rushed and needs to be beefed up, and the document to come back at our next meeting, which off the top of my head I think is the 13th of September. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And now we'll go to item 11, which is Overview and Scrutiny Committee Work Programme, and that is pages 45 to 46. And that is our own work programme. We have some very, very important items that we can actually discuss, like the corporate plan. Then we have Epping Forest Youth Council. We have over the Qualis year 4-year business plan that it could come around November to us. But again, members, as we are going along, we can add to our work programme. Councillor Murray.
Again, I wanted to say a big thank you to you, Madam Chairman. You've kind of tilted the focus of the ONS committee work this year towards scrutinising the council, which is absolutely right. The other point I wanted to make is, and I don't think we want to overdo it, but it might mean that once, 2 times a year, we might, away from ONS, we might as a council want to invite an organisation in on a major project, or like I'm thinking of Harlow Hospital, the new Harlow Hospital, where we had them in on ONS. I don't want us to lose that completely as a council, but that would be a separate all-member briefing where all members could attend in the chamber, and we would have a presentation by an outside body, and we could ask them questions. So you're right to move our focus as a committee to this kind of internal scrutiny, but I would like, and I think it will become self-evident when you know, there'll be a feeling across the groups in the council when there will be an issue. It's either an issue that blows up and stays blown up for a long time in the area, or it's a big new development issue. We don't want to lose that completely as a council.
Absolutely not. And my aim is not to lose that. The only thing is that I would like more engagement by the other councillors as well. So yes, of course, we will put forward, but it will be an all-members briefing. Then we can actually have other views and other questions, but we need to concentrate on scrutinising the council, I think. Okay, back to our agenda. And item 12, cabinet business, which is pages 47 to 66. Okay. And we go straight to work programme of the portfolio, the leaders' portfolio. Perhaps we can actually ask Councillor Whitbread if you could give us an update on where we are with the boundary review. And an overview update will be good, if you don't mind.
Yeah, Chairman, thank you for asking that. The boundary review is ongoing. As members will be aware, the initial consultation closed on the 18th of July. This council just handed in the notes of the PAG committee, which many members were in attendance to. We haven't made a comment on the initial boundary review because it's so complex with the free-seat arrangement required for 54 councillors and the nature of our district. I imagine that every district council thinks it's special in one way or other, but of course this is more difficult than previously because we do have to bear in mind that we should have as many free-seat awards as possible, and we have to make special arguments, such as in the parts of the district like Hyonga, where we have slightly different geographical issues to grapple with at the same time. But we now wait for the Commission to report back. and then we'll make further comments from there. I'm sure at the same time, political parties will make their observations on the comments along with other community groups as well. So we now wait and see.
Thank you very much. Okay, we continue with Portfolio Place, which is Councillor Nigel Bedford. But if you have anything at all on that, we have Nigel Wilkinson to help us. Nigel Richardson, I beg your pardon. Councillor Murray.
Chairman, just a factual question. Air Quality Action Plan. I can see the dated decision is the 13th of March 2023. Will that be going to the appropriate scrutiny before that meeting? Because that's, you know, I can see that being a major issue.
Mandy, could you answer this?
Yes, yeah, of course. Yes, that is our intention, that it will go to scrutiny before going to Cabinet. We would aim probably for about January if we can, so that we've got time to amend, ready for Cabinet in March.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you very much. Any other members? No. We go to Portfolio Finance. Councillor Philip is here. Any? Okay. We go to Portfolio Contract and Commissioning. Councillor Nigel Avey is not here, but perhaps we can. We have James Warwick here. So, Councillor Wexley.
Yeah, I've got a question which hopefully James can answer, but I don't know if I've missed something here, but what I'm talking about is the charging for additional waste containers, and then it goes on to say approval for charging residents for additional, and what I'm more concerned about, it says, and replacement waste containers, and apparently this is going to go to the Cabinet on the 19th of September. I don't know if this has been scrutinised, but my concern about being charged for replacement waste containers, I think it's potentially unfair on residents. I think these the wheelie bins can sometimes get damaged in the course of the being emptied into the refuge vehicle. So I just wonder if James could expand on this and explain exactly what is being considered or proposed.
Yeah, so this report has been to the the Waste Management Partnership Board, and it has gone to stronger place. It probably won't go to September. It'll probably be pushed back. It's probably be November Cabinet. Where a bin has been broken through wear and tear or through one of the BIFA operatives, residents will not be charged. We will replace that. It's where the bin's been lost and or can't be presented and can't be repaired, there will be a charge. But yeah, all the detail is contained within the report.
So it will be scrutinised in a stronger place, yes? As a select committee.
It's already been to stronger place.
Lovely. Any other member? Councillor Murray.
There is the obvious question, if no one else is going to ask it. 18th of July, EFDC litter strategy. Well, that obviously got pushed back, didn't it? So what's the state of decision for that now from the Cabinet?
It's due to go.
Yes.
Yeah, it's due to go to back to stronger place on, I believe, 13th September, and then if it's approved there, it will go to Cabinet either October or November.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. So, Portfolio Housing and Community, Councillor Holly Whitbread, she is here. Members are going through quite a working program there. Any questions? anything that... No? Portfolio internal resource, Councillor Kane, and he's here as well. Any questions? Portfolio Wellbeing and Community Partnership, we've got nothing. Portfolio Customer, Councillor Lyon is here, but we think we touched the Broadway. Yeah. Portfolio Technical Services, Councillor Williamson. Anything that you would like to? And Portfolio Holder Review and Efficiency, Councillor Barrows. Got nothing. Okay. Right. So item 13, exclusion of public and press. And thank you very much to all the members. Thank you very, very much to the cabinet members, and of course to the officers that answered most of our questions efficiently. And I close this meeting at 8:40. Thank you.